Hello and welcome to my channel about financial education. If you're here to watch a video about how to make money in a crisis, then keep on watching. So the main thing we need to do in a crisis is to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Okay, so now we've done that, let's head on into what happens in a crisis. So obviously lots of people lose their jobs and those people need money. So what happens is they stop buying things and they actually sell everything valuable they have. That includes investments. Everyone doing this at the same time causes the price to crash, and that causes more people to panic, and then the prices crash more. So while this is happening, the governments and the central bank of the world, they don't just sit there and do nothing. They usually do two main things. So thing number one, they lower the interest rate. So that basically just makes it easier for people to borrow money. It makes it cheaper to borrow so they can go out and spend more money. And thing number two. So thing number two is they do something called quantitative easing. This is basically just a fancy word for printing tons of money. So you can look back to the 2008 crisis where the world banks, they just did tons of quantitative easing, or they printed tons and tons of money. So the more money in the system, the more our purchasing power drops, the less we can actually buy with our money. Here's a picture of the value of the dollar and its purchasing power over time. And now let's compare that with one for gold. See what I mean? So this means that if you keep all of your money in dollars, then you're actually losing money over time as the banks print more and more and more money. Your $100 is still $100, but it can just buy so much less. This is called inflation. So it also means that all that money has to go somewhere. So obviously some of it goes into investments and helps to prop the prices up so they don't fall as far as they normally would. Okay, now wait, big disclaimer here. This does not mean go out and spend all your money, go out and invest all of your money. You need to have an emergency fund. If you don't have a safety blanket, then you're going to have to be doing exactly what everyone else is doing right now. And that is having to sell great investments because we need money for our rent. Okay, so now we've got our safety blanket, we need to remember that markets are cyclical, or they go in cycles. So what this means is they go down and then they go up again. Usually the biggest growth comes after the biggest crash. If you look at the 2008 crash, you can see that afterwards we went on this massive bull run that we're on now, where we had more growth than we've seen, I think, ever. So just remember, if you're selling now, then you're going to miss out on the growth afterwards. So index funds, I've talked a lot about those in my other video about investment terminology for beginners. Well, index funds usually do really well against the dollar over time. They're usually great because over time the economy is growing. So if we can get those now, then they're often at a massive discount. We can be pretty certain that after this crash, the US economy, it will eventually go back to what it was before. It's a pretty safe bet. So if we're buying now, then we know that at some point in the future, it's a pretty safe bet that our money will be worth more than it is today. So that's why I really like index funds. So another great option is really strong stocks from businesses that you know are good and will survive the crisis. So one thing about a crisis is everyone is panic selling. Everyone is just selling everything. The price of everything will usually drop. But that doesn't change the actual value of what the thing's worth. The price and the value, they're two completely separate things. So if everyone's selling all their stocks and there's something still really valuable, then that can be a great opportunity to pick some up. One of the ways to do this and look for this is strong earnings, low costs, low debt, things that will really help it to survive a crisis and go forward. If we can pick up some of those at discount prices when everyone's panic selling, then in the long run, it can really, really set us up well. So historically, things that are very scarce, like gold or more recently Bitcoin, have been doing well when the governments have been printing tons of money. And that's because the government can just wake up tomorrow and decide to make trillions of more dollars, but they can't wake up tomorrow and decide that there'll be trillions of more tons of gold in the world. Gold is scarce, they can't just make it like that. So that's why those things usually do hold their value well over time against the dollar. So disclaimer time again, these things can lose you money as well. These things go up and they go down. You got to take responsibility. You got to look into each of these individual things yourself and make your own decision. So, okay, that's my disclaimer over. Let's get back into the video. Lots of massive and famous companies were started during financial meltdowns. Think Disney, IBM, Google. There's so many, and they all came out and they did amazingly in the years to follow. We really don't want to miss the growth that comes after the crash. If you panic sell, then you're going to be missing all of that growth phase as well. So you really need to check, am I actually selling something that's bad, or am I just panicking? You really need to keep yourself calm and just relaxed when you're looking at these things. Try and keep a clear head. Also, that brings us to another amazing way to take advantage of a crisis. All these other massive businesses were started during a crisis. So after you're done going down and smashing the like button, maybe you could make a business, maybe you could make a YouTube channel. Don't waste this crisis. It's a great opportunity to start something new and let it grow. And I'll leave you with a quote from possibly the best investor of all time, Warren Buffett. He's a super billionaire, he knows his stuff. And he says, when others are greedy, we should be fearful. And when others are fearful, it's time for us to be greedy. So thank you for watching this video, wishing you all the best, and bye bye.